They came from the stars with ultimatums dressed as diplomacy. The Galactic Empire, a sprawl of subjugated worlds and sterile efficiency, had discovered Earth. To them, it was routine. Planet 474. Another backwater with delusions of sovereignty. They sent a transmission wrapped in centuries of protocol and imperial arrogance. The wording was polite, ceremonial even, but the meaning was clear: submit or burn. The message reached Earth's United Terran Assembly in the middle of a budget argument over asteroid mining rights. It played on a cracked holoscreen in a conference room lined with mismatched chairs. The Empire's ambassador, a tall, silver-skinned being with too many syllables in its name, recited declarations of benevolence laced with threats. The humans listened, passed around a bowl of peanuts, and burst into laughter before the message had finished. That was the first mistake the Empire made, assuming silence meant fear. It didn't. It meant we were busy trying not to choke on snacks. The transmission included images: sleek ships the size of continents, vast orbital platforms capable of erasing cities from low orbit, and rows of perfectly synchronized soldiers bred for obedience. The Empire called them gifts of civilization. Humanity called it overcompensation. The term, space fascists, started trending within the hour. The Assembly's official response was short. 3 words. Thanks, we're good. For the Empire, that was unthinkable. Every species they met had folded. Some knelt immediately, others after their moons were shattered, but all had eventually submitted. The idea that this barely interstellar species, still using combustion engines in some places, would mock them? That wasn't defiance. It was insult. Galactic historians later debated what provoked the full mobilization order. Some blamed the humans' memes. Others pointed to the karaoke remix of the Empire's anthem. Regardless, retaliation became a matter of imperial pride. So they sent a scout fleet, then a formal war contingent. Just enough firepower to intimidate, to bring the Earth to heel with minimal damage. The Empire never used their full strength on the first strike. Why waste resources on what would become a loyal subject world? Back on Earth, we had no illusions. We knew they were stronger. We'd seen the projections. One military AI estimated a 94% chance of planetary defeat within 2 weeks. It also recommended immediate surrender. We turned it off and called it a quitter. Instead of panicking, we started building. Not faster-than-light destroyers or massive dreadnoughts. No, we built weird things. Ugly things. Ships with armor made of layered titanium scavenged from decommissioned satellites. Fusion drives cobbled together from research prototypes and old space station parts. We layered our defense network with irregular satellites, signal disruptors, and kinetic launchers that looked like junkyards with ambition. It wasn't defiance for the sake of ego. It was instinct. You don't survive on Earth without learning to punch above your weight. From volcanoes and predators to wars and pandemics, we didn't evolve by surrendering. We evolved by adapting, improvising, and above all, refusing to stay down. The Empire interpreted the delay as humanity stalling for negotiations. They sent more messages. None were answered. One Empire captain remarked, "Perhaps they are primitive enough to misunderstand our language." Another responded, "Or too stupid to understand consequence." Both were later proven wrong. They declared a formal campaign against Earth. Fleet movement logs recorded an armada of 50 vessels departing the Empire's nearest jump nexus. Among them were 3 siege cruisers, 10 heavy assault carriers, and dozens of support ships. Enough to reduce Earth to a cautionary tale. On Earth, we finally responded. Not with words, but with a transmission burst containing a single clip, a grainy video of a chimpanzee stealing a soldier's hat at a zoo, overlaid with the words, *, good luck. *. That's when they realized something was different. Our ships didn't match any known design. Our signal behavior was erratic, jamming sensors in ways considered obsolete. We used analog backups. Manual override systems. We communicated in slang, changed protocols mid-transmission, and treated warfare like a bar fight with orbital mechanics. To the Empire, this was chaos. To us, it was Tuesday. As the fleet approached Earth, they activated long-range targeting systems. That's when their sensors picked up the human ships, 10 of them, floating casually at the edge of the system. Not in formation. Not responding. Just waiting. One Empire officer remarked. "They're not even cloaked." "No," his commander replied. "They're smiling." There were no faces. No words exchanged. Just one undeniable truth dawning in the hearts of beings who had never tasted real resistance. The humans weren't afraid. They were amused. Empire analysts convened to dissect what had gone wrong. They had the reports, the footage, and the wreckage of one of their scout ships. What they didn't have were answers that made sense. The human ship hadn't fired plasma, hadn't used energy weapons or mass driver arrays. It had simply flung a tungsten rod at a fraction of light speed and split the Empire's vessel in half like a dry twig. From an engineering standpoint, the human ship was an insult. It had no sleek lines, no gravitational symmetry, no elegant AI core. It looked like someone had welded together shipping containers and stuck boosters on with industrial glue. Heat sinks protruded like jagged ribs. The hull was patchwork, armored in mismatched layers of steel, ceramics, and, according to one horrified analyst, repurposed submarine plating. It wasn't a warship. It was an act of defiance wearing the skin of a freighter. Their propulsion systems were worse. The Empire used refined antimatter drives, stable and optimized. Humans used fusion bursts and magnetic sling systems. Crude. Inconsistent. Effective. They didn't coast into position like precision tools. They burned hard, turned sharp, and bled radiation like open wounds. Communications were another mystery. Human channels were encrypted but erratic. Empire decoding algorithms struggled because the humans kept switching formats, signal types, and languages. Some transmissions weren't even in any known linguistic structure, just patterns, tones, or noise layered with jokes, music, or silence. One technician summarized it perfectly. "They don't care about our rules. They don't even care if we understand them." To the Empire, war was procedural. Strategy followed doctrine. Fleets moved with symmetry. Battles began with formal declarations. Every species in the Empire had eventually learned to fight like them, or had ceased to fight at all. Humans didn't care. They didn't just ignore protocol. They mocked it. Fleet intelligence compiled data on human military structure. They expected a centralized command, clean hierarchy, predictive systems. Instead, they found autonomy. Captains making independent calls, reacting in real time. Decentralized combat authority. No single point of failure. No predictable patterns. No unified doctrine. Even the weapons were alien in philosophy. The Empire used energy blades, drone clouds, and shield-piercing beams. Humans used slug throwers. Missiles. Shotguns. Explosives with triple fail-safe detonators, and sometimes none. They used redundancy obsessively. One power system wasn't enough. They had 3. Some ships carried analog backups for their digital systems. One even had a crank-operated airlock. An engineer from the Empire's research corps reviewed the data and declared, "They are not building ships. They are building survivors." It was more than hardware. It was mindset. Human commanders made decisions the Empire wouldn't even consider. Self-damage, ambush tactics, scorched orbital paths, nothing was off the table. In one recorded incident, a human ship vented atmosphere through its own hull to blind enemy sensors with frozen debris, then used the sudden vacuum to pivot into a reverse launch maneuver. It looked like madness. It worked. A battle report from a second encounter noted that a human vessel, outnumbered and cornered, didn't retreat. It accelerated straight into the enemy formation, ejecting engine parts and decoy signals. The Empire's ships, confused by dozens of conflicting sensor readings, split formation. That single break cost them 3 cruisers and command cohesion. The humans didn't fire a single shot. They just let entropy do its job. Empire Command labeled the tactic as aggressive disorder. The humans had another name. Just winging it. And yet, amid the chaos, there was control. Intent. Pattern. Every strange design, every ugly decision, was purposeful. Built to break expectations. Built to function under failure. Where the Empire saw beauty in perfection, humans engineered for disaster and made it an advantage. Empire morale faltered. They were used to enemies begging for clemency, not taunting them with improvised radio jingles and crude cartoons broadcast across open channels. One alien commander requested reassignment, citing psychological distress after a human message ended with asterisk. Catch us if you can, Chromeboy. Asterisk. The Empire realized it wasn't facing a lesser species. It was facing a culture that didn't fear war. It treated it like a challenge to be solved creatively. Not a ritual. Not a duty. A puzzle. And the humans were just getting started. The fleet arrived with full confidence. 52 ships, layered in plasma shielding, AI-coordinated targeting systems, and enough firepower to level a continent per minute. The Empire expected surrender within the hour, 2 at most. Instead, they were met with silence, followed by a ping from Earth's outer defense relay that read, asterisk. Welcome, tourists. Asterisk. Human ships were already in position. Not in formation, just drifting, scattered like junk. No lockstep. No synchrony. From a distance, they resembled disabled freighters. Up close, they were something else entirely. Armored in layered alloys, their surfaces bristled with improvised weapons and strange emissions. No ship matched another. No configuration repeated. The Empire's admiral gave the standard ultimatum: surrender or face obliteration. Seconds later, a human signal responded, a recording of a bored voice saying, "Nah." The first engagement began at 1904 Universal Time Coordinated. Empire battle groups moved in standard phalanx pattern. 3 front lines, layered with drone escorts and interceptor wings. Human response was immediate, seemingly chaotic yet precise. One vessel flared its engines, ejecting shrapnel and decoys in every direction. A second ship launched high-velocity rods on unpredictable arcs, forcing enemy formations to break alignment. 2 minutes in, an Empire cruiser's shield failed, not from a direct hit, but from overload. Human tactics involved flooding sensor arrays with conflicting data, pushing automated defense systems into recursive loops. While the cruiser recalibrated, it took a kinetic projectile through its ventral hull. It lost structural integrity in 12 seconds. A pattern emerged. Human ships didn't hold positions. They weaved between enemy lines, using the Empire's predictability against them. One vessel used microjumps to appear directly above a command ship, releasing a cloud of magnetic chaff before retreating. The command ship's own targeting systems, confused by the interference, fired on its escorts. Empire captains requested new battle algorithms. Their AI systems couldn't process human maneuver logic. The humans weren't following rules. They were improvising every move, like jazz with torpedoes. One ship jettisoned its life support to cool its hull fast enough to absorb a laser strike. Another used a dead satellite as a battering ram. At 1917, the tide visibly turned. A human destroyer, previously assumed disabled, reactivated near the flank. It drifted in passive mode for nearly 10 minutes before unleashing a burst of directional EMPs. The Empire's rear guard, caught mid-maneuver, lost propulsion. 4 ships collided in a cascading crash, disabling a quarter of the fleet's mobility. Empire officers expected a retreat. Instead, humans advanced. Not in force, but like sharks drawn to blood. A boarding vessel latched onto a crippled cruiser, not with docking clamps, but with harpoons. Human Marines breached the hull manually. Internal footage showed close-quarters combat with improvised weapons. The Empire's bioengineered soldiers, trained in formation tactics, were overwhelmed by unpredictable, asymmetric violence. By 1934, the Empire's formation had collapsed. Orders from command were delayed, confused by repeated system disruptions. Human interference included virus bursts that replaced enemy HUDs with arcade games, distorted maps, and once, a looping video of a cat pushing a cup off a table. One Empire officer reportedly asked, asterisk, "Are they taking this seriously?" Asterisk, the answer was yes, they were just having fun with it. When the Empire's flagship tried to retreat, a human ship sacrificed itself. Not by suicide run, by magnetically anchoring to the hull and detonating a pulse bomb designed to fry command subsystems without breaching the core. The flagship went dark. Then silent. The Empire's fleet fractured. Ships began falling back. No order. No cohesion. What was meant to be a display of dominance had become a rout. Human ships didn't pursue. They simply hovered, taunting with signal bursts and distorted music. By 2003, Earth's orbit was clear. 26 Empire vessels had been destroyed, 11 captured, the rest scattered. Human casualties were minimal. 2 ships lost. No planet-side damage. It wasn't a miracle. It was calculated chaos, executed by a species that thrived in disorder. The Empire didn't just lose the battle, they lost the illusion of superiority. And as the last Empire transmission cut out, the only thing left was a wideband broadcast from Earth. A single line spoken in a calm, unbothered voice. Asterisk. Next time, send more. Asterisk. The Empire's return to their core systems was marked not by strategic withdrawal, but by disarray. Communications were erratic. Chain of command had fractured. Debriefs turned into blame shifting. High command demanded explanations. No one had any. What was supposed to be a routine subjugation had exposed a blind spot no one had considered: unpredictability. Humanity didn't just fight differently, they thought differently. Empire analysts tried to reconstruct the engagement. Data models broke. Assumptions collapsed. Human behavior didn't map to any algorithm. Their tactics weren't scalable. They weren't refined. They were messy, intuitive, and effective. The more the Empire studied the loss, the more it realized it hadn't lost to superior technology, it had lost to superior psychology. Across the Empire's thousands of systems, ripples spread. Subject races noticed. Word traveled fast in unofficial channels. A species had stood its ground against the most dominant power in the galaxy, and laughed doing it. Resistance cells rekindled old embers. Governors in outer sectors reported increasing tension. Some systems delayed tax shipments, testing boundaries. If humans could win, maybe others could too. Internal pressure mounted. The ruling council convened an emergency summit. One faction demanded escalation, full war. Another urged caution, pointing to human culture as an unstable variable. Their art, their history, their humor, all pointed to a mindset that didn't fit imperial categorization. They weren't just immune to fear. They fed on adversity. Attempts to infiltrate human networks failed. Spies embedded on Earth found themselves culturally overwhelmed. They couldn't adapt to the sheer volume of decentralized decision-making, shifting norms, and contradictory values. One agent submitted a final report that simply read, asterisk, "They argue with themselves more than we ever could." Asterisk. Humanity's lack of unity wasn't a weakness, it was armor. No single ideology controlled them. No uniform doctrine guided their hand. The Empire couldn't predict them because humans didn't even predict themselves. What looked like chaos from the outside was actually flexibility honed through centuries of survival under volatile conditions. Meanwhile, Earth didn't waste time. While the Empire scrambled for control, humans expanded. Not through colonization or conquest, but through influence. Their victory wasn't followed by territorial claims, it was followed by open broadcasts, jokes, music, and stories. The message was clear: they weren't looking to rule, they were just impossible to rule. Other species took notice. Smugglers and traders altered routes to swing by Sol. Independent worlds opened informal talks with Terran representatives. Not governments, not militaries, people. Engineers, linguists, soldiers, entertainers. Humans didn't send envoys. They sent personalities. The Empire attempted propaganda to discredit the incident. They claimed the defeat was a temporary setback caused by outdated fleet composition. The footage told a different story. So did the survivors. Veterans of the battle refused to speak publicly. The few who did spoke of psychological shock, weaponized humor, and a sense that they'd fought not an army, but an idea. Academies rewrote training manuals. Officers were told to expect irrational opposition. No simulation prepared them for what humans had already normalized: failure, recovery, and escalation without warning. Earth hadn't fought cleanly. It had fought like a cornered animal with a toolkit. Strategic advisors proposed peace talks. It was the first time in recorded history the Empire had ever done so without total military dominance. The proposal was cautious, non-binding, and framed as a research agreement. Humanity declined, replying, "Appreciate the offer. We'll pass." The Empire's perception shifted from disdain to fear. Not fear of destruction, but of the precedent humans had set. They hadn't toppled the Empire, they'd ignored its foundation entirely. They didn't rebel. They didn't negotiate. They made conquest look ridiculous. With no formal treaty, no formal war, and no open communication, the Empire entered an era of instability. Systems once considered loyal began forming internal councils. Enforcement efforts spread thin. Resource demands climbed. Trust in leadership fell. And through it all, Earth remained distant, quiet, watching. Humanity hadn't sought to become a threat. They simply refused to be conquered. And that made them the most dangerous species the Empire had ever encountered. Time passed. The Empire's grip loosened, not from external invasion, but from the inside. Their authority no longer inspired fear, only calculation. Subjects measured risk differently now. The myth of invincibility was broken, not through overwhelming firepower or sweeping revolts, but by a single species choosing not to be impressed. Humanity didn't expand through borders. They expanded through ideas. Not propaganda, not doctrine, just raw presence. Unfiltered. Confusing. Infectious. They made contact not with governments, but individuals. Miners in asteroid belts tuned into human broadcasts out of curiosity, and stayed for the jokes. Pirate clans started using Terran slang. Unaligned researchers reached out to Earth for tech exchanges, without permission from their sectors. The Empire issued decrees banning human media. It backfired. Demand increased. Black markets surged with Earth exports, not weapons, but culture. Stand-up comedy routines, gritty documentaries, unpredictable music, chaotic forums where disagreements spiraled into breakthroughs. Entire civilizations became addicted to the noise, the creativity, the absurdity. Humanity's most dangerous weapon turned out to be its authenticity. Empire officials tried mimicry. They created artificial equivalents of Earth's communication channels, populating them with synthetic personalities designed to appear flawed, funny, relatable. It didn't work. Audiences spotted the fakes instantly. You can't forge inconsistency. You can't script surprise. What made humans magnetic was their refusal to be edited. Meanwhile, Earth kept building. Quietly. Efficiently. They didn't announce fleet production. They didn't showcase advancements. But their signals grew stronger. Their reach extended further. Systems once thought to be deep within Empire control began experiencing data anomalies, ghost signals, subtle interferences. The implication was clear: humans had their own network now, and it was growing under the surface. The military frontier shifted. Not with declarations, but with disappearances. Patrol ships went dark. Probes vanished. Empire scouts reported strange phenomena. Communications jammed by audio distortion, sensors flooded by nonsensical patterns. No one could trace the source, but everyone knew who it was. The ruling council fractured. Strategic branches clashed over what to do. Some advocated overwhelming force, a final purge of Earth. But simulations showed the same result: unacceptable loss, no guarantee of control, and probable humiliation. Others proposed isolation, containment, starving Earth of trade and contact. But that required cooperation the Empire no longer had. In time, a silent policy emerged: don't provoke them. Don't mention Earth. Don't remind others that it happened. The records were buried, classified, renamed. The term, human, became taboo in official circles. But it was already too late. The damage wasn't material, it was cultural. A seed had been planted in every mind that heard the story. If they can say no, why can't we? Earth didn't seek domination. They didn't want tribute. They didn't claim sectors. All they wanted was the freedom to be left alone, and the willingness to make it painful for anyone who tried otherwise. That made them untouchable. Humanity knew the Empire was still watching. So they kept broadcasting. Not messages of threat, not demands, just noise. Laughter. Questions. Arguments. Music without structure. Words without context. Beauty without symmetry. All of it unfiltered. All of it unmistakably human. To the Empire, it was chaos. To others, it was proof. Proof that freedom didn't have to be orderly, that survival didn't require obedience, and that sometimes the loudest answer to power wasn't resistance, it was mockery. Earth became legend, not because of what they destroyed, but because of what they rejected. They didn't defeat the Empire in a conventional sense. They simply denied its relevance. No negotiation. No compromise. Just the unshakable refusal to participate in someone else's script. In time, the galaxy changed. Not from war, not from treaties, but from imitation. Unaligned worlds stopped seeking approval. Small colonies stopped apologizing for their independence. Rogue planets stopped hiding. The center of power didn't shift, it splintered. And at the edge of it all, Earth remained exactly where it was. Unaligned. Unclaimed. Unbothered. Laughing.